Welcome back to Game 3 of Virginia versus Minnesota. If you missed the first two games, Virginia is currently up 2-0 in this series. Minnesota is yet to get a point on the board in the first two games. In today's matchup for Virginia, we are going to be watching B- Axe Marshall as their starter in the regular season. Axe Marshall went 5 wins to 7 losses with a 4.24 ERA. And he will be going up against Minnesota's Molly Reef Killer. Molly Reef Killer in the regular season went 4 wins to 9 losses with a 6.1 ERA. So going into this matchup, it looks like Virginia does have a slight pitching advantage. And again, Minnesota is yet to get a point on the board in this series. So we will see if Minnesota can get a game here. And let's go ahead and hop in. So a couple of important things to note here is a number of players have lowered mojos. Virginia does have 2 players currently with a higher mojo. And we'll see how that plays in for them. We start off with a grounder, and Virginia's going to quickly end up with a player on first to start off game 3. Legend Leverage, stepping up. Molly Reef Killer with a pretty high junk bar, but not a great velocity bar. So we're going to see a lot of curveballs and things like that coming from her today. That ball is popped up. Will it land, though? It does not land. Gets it there in right field. Minnesota with the first out of the inning. And here we go, Blevins. Now, Blevins had an incredible game 1, a little bit of a disappointing game 2. But again, she is one of the top batters that we have in the tournament. So we'll see if she can get anything going here. And 2 strikes to 1 ball. Three balls, 2 strikes. Big pitch coming up. And she gets the strikeout on Blevins. So in the regular season, Molly Reef Killer, who again is the starting pitcher we're currently looking at here, she only pitched 81 strikeouts, which is about half. And let's just see her power's beautiful dive to stop it, but does not get it on in time. And Virginia is now looking with player on first and second with 2 outs. Randy Craig now stepping up their right fielder. And he has decent batting bars. And he gets under that one. Does it have the distance? That's going to be the question. Minnesota's calling it at the wall. And Whitney catches it a couple of feet from a home run. So lucky for Minnesota. Minnesota does not fall behind in the top of the first. Now over to the other side here. Axe Marshall. And again, in the regular season, he went 5 wins, 7 losses. He had 87 strikeouts. So actually, these are 2 very, I guess you could say, equal pitchers when it comes to some of their pitching stats. He starts things out here with a strikeout. Love Atkins, again, one of the best batters for Minnesota. Struggled in the regular season in terms of batting stats, and so far has struggled in the first 2 games. 3 balls, 2 strikes. And that should result in a quick second out, and it does. Doctor now stepping up here. Hard grounder makes it past the third baseman. Leverage gets it in left field. Brings it on in. Minnesota with a player on. They now have Jeff Cano stepping up. He has a lowered mojo, so that contact bar is low, but he gets a nice hit, and it takes a very nice bounce for him. And that will put Minnesota with a player on first and second. And both of those batters now had raised mojos based on their hits, which is also big for Minnesota. Sailor McCarty has so far actually had a pretty good 2 games. Minnesota in general hasn't been able to get anything really going. 3 foul balls in a row. Slightly low. And that is a strikeout for out 3. So both teams get a number of players on the bases in the first inning, but we haven't had anybody cross home plate yet. Brendan Chung here, he has had a great first 2 games. We will see what he can do here against Reef Killer. And Reef Killer gets a quick strikeout to start the second. Alicia Reed. That should result in a quick out too, and it does. So one thing to note here, both of these starting pitchers had relatively long first innings. So Reef Killer here, that was pitch 28 from her, which is a little bit higher than you would typically want to be at this point. It's just something that we'll have to keep an eye on. That is strike 3. As a reminder, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure for Minnesota, they did use their good relief pitching last game, which means higher pitch counts will be extra hard for them. Almost hits the batter there. Marshall needs to be careful. Max Marshall starts us off with another strikeout. These are the 3rd starting pitchers for each team, so if you haven't been following the series so far, the first pitcher is the best starting pitcher on each team down the line. So there are 4 starting pitchers per team, so generally speaking, games 3 and 4, we see a little bit of higher scoring, we see a couple additional hits, but so far through 2 innings, both of these pitchers are putting on quite a show for a game 3. Genevieve Powers is now going to step up. If she could get something going, that would be great for Minnesota. And Powers also has that nice speed bar. So if she's able to at least get a single, we could definitely see her take off. Is that one foul? And she strikes out, so this pitching situation continues. Going into the 3rd inning now, no runs scored yet. Virginia has Mendoza stepping up, and then they're at the top of their batting order again. Reef Killer does have this specialist positive trait, so when she's going up against, I guess it's left-handed batters in this case, some of her bars do get increased a little bit, and she gets a strikeout. Cantor Norton, leadoff for Texas. Three balls, 1 strike. And they walk him. That will be interesting. So let me just take a quick peek here. Norton only has a 59 speed, so we probably won't see him take off. He only stole 4 times in the regular season, got caught twice. So not great stats there. We'll probably see him stay there at first. Slow grounder, Nelson, over to McCarty, back to Nelson, and has a beautiful double play to end the top of the 3rd. Max Marshall will be stepping up here with pitch 39, which is definitely a little bit higher than you want here at the 3rd inning. beautiful. But Blevins with a beautiful dive. That was a beautiful out by Blevins, but most first basemen would not be able to make that play. Another hard grounder. Chung gets that one. Over to Blevins. That is that. As a reminder, Blevins has a 94 fielding bar. So she is one of the best, if not the best, first baseman that we have in this tournament. And that is strike 3 and out 3. So it is important to note that this is exactly the kind of game that Minnesota wants. Minnesota is a low-scoring, pitching-heavy team. So anytime that they can get a nice, low-scoring game, that is when they have a much better shot at winning. Blevins will start off with a grounder and gets on first. And again, she has a great speed bar, so it will be very common that we will see her take off. Ward Shipwright, the designated hitter for Virginia. Fouls that one off. 3 balls, 1 strike. Shipwright didn't swing at that one. And another grounder. McCarty gets there and is not going to go for the double play. It was actually probably a good call. Blevins is very quick, and if they had gone for second first, I don't think they would have gotten out at first. Probably a good call there. And that one is popped. Does it have the distance? It does! So Virginia is going to go ahead and get themselves a 2-run lead. Now, 2 runs is definitely something Minnesota can come back from. But again, Minnesota is the lowest scoring team we have in this tournament. So it will be important for them to keep this at a 2-run max, basically. There goes Reef Killer. Says, you know what? Let me get my pitching stats back up. It's another strikeout there. Slow grounder. Powers fields it. And that ends the top of the 4th. So Minnesota did let up a 2-run home run there. But this is still a very good game for them and very much in reach. So let's see what they can do. They're going to start off here with their 3rd in batting order, Doctor. It would be big if he could get on base to start this inning for them. That one is a pop fly, though. Should be easily caught here, and it is by his pitcher, Marshall. Cano, earlier in the game, had a lowered bar, but it looks like his mojo is back, and his stats are where they normally are. He's a big power guy, but not great on that contact bar. Oh, that one looks like it was low. And Marshall gets unlucky there. I think Cano swung at a bad pitch. That one bounces. Chung gets that. Gets over to Blevins. End of the 4th. So Virginia is going to be starting with their 8th batter, Ortiz. Ortiz right now, basically a non-existent power bar. Doesn't mean that he can't hit a home run, though. It just means it's much more unlikely. And he gets a very nice hit. That should hit the gap, and then it's going to roll to the wall. He should get a double off of that. Whitney, good throw in. This puts Virginia in a very good situation. A player already in scoring position, 0 outs. Reef Killer starts us off with a strike right down the middle. Then a second strike. and a hard grounder powers fields it, gets out one. Virginia does now have a player on third. So now if they can either get a nice grounder or some kind of pop fly, let's see. They do send somebody home here, and they will get that third point on the board. Reef Killer, this will be pitch 70, which is hit foul. And there goes strike 3, out 3. So for Minnesota, this is a big inning because this will probably dictate their pitching situation moving forward. If they're able to close this gap so they're not down by 3, I think there is a good chance that we will see them start pulling in relief pitchers earlier because they will believe that they have a better shot. And they do start with somebody on. They have a great speed bar. I was not paying close enough attention. Who is that? That one's called a fair ball. That's big because that's going to slowly drift down that line. And Minnesota is actually now in a very good situation. If nothing else, they should be able to get their first run of the series, if nothing more. And that is a beautifully hit ball. It looks like it has the power, and it does. Minnesota with a huge, huge hit. This is a 3-run home run, 410 feet by Powers. And not only is that their first run of the series, that ties this game up at 3-3. This is the exact kind of inning that Minnesota needed. Lamb is now up, and there's still 0 outs in this inning. Two strikes, 1 ball. Lamb has that negative whiffer trait, so you can see that contact bar is very, very small right now. That gets called strike 3. Enoch Nelson now up. He has struggled so far in games 1 and 2. So far, I've watched 3 pitches. Swings at that one, hits it foul. Hits another one foul. Grounder past the pitcher. Minnesota now has a player on first. So they're keeping this inning going. And Love Atkins struggled in the regular season, has struggled so far in the series, but she's one of the best batters. So we'll see if she can get something going here. 3 balls, 0 strikes to start out here. Beautifully hit grounder. Minnesota now has a player on first and second. Only 1 out. And Derek Doctor, who I believe led off this inning, is now back up to bat. And again, he is one of their best hitting bars. Nice hit, but it's not going to be deep enough. Leverage fields it. And the players are kept at first and second. Jeff Cano. Right now, that non-existent contact bar. 2 balls to 1 strike. Full count. Double steal. Marshall fields it over to first. And that ends the inning. That was a huge inning for Minnesota, though. They, first and foremost, tied up the game here. But that is also huge for them, as that is the first points that they've been able to put on the board. And that can definitely change the tide here in their favor. The other interesting thing here will be how long will Reef Killer stay in. As I mentioned earlier, I don't think that Minnesota has their good relief pitching. When Blevins gets under that one, and it does hit the wall. Cano is going to field it, throws it into second, but Blevins in scoring position already with 0 outs. Ooh, lucky that I didn't get away from McCarty. That was pretty ugly throw to second. That ball was popped basically directly straight up. This should be caught by the catcher, and it is there. Atkins is able to get out 1. I could be wrong. Oh, here we go. Blevins. Oh, and the error. Oh, that is huge. I was going to say, I think every time Blevins has gotten on base this series, I think that she's crossed home plate. And here she goes. She is going to take off for home. Minnesota gets out 2, but they are now down the run again. Killer Subi pitch 87. That ball there's a lot of power under that, but I don't think it has the distance, and no, it doesn't. Cano is able to catch it. That takes us into the bottom of the 6th. McCarty will be leading off Minnesota. Marshall is at 85 pitches. There's 86. You can see his stamina is starting to impact his bars as well. That is actually possibly going to fall. Both players dive, and there would have realistically been a pretty big collision there. Okay, so Marshall's going to get pulled for McCann. McCann has yet to be seen so far in games 1 and 2. Let's take a look here. So McCann, in the regular season, well, actually, overall, he's a C relief pitcher. In the regular season, actually went 5 wins to 1 loss as a relief pitcher. 4.85 ERA. So, from an ERA standpoint, he's 5th out of the 8 pitchers on this pitching squad. Three balls, 1 strike. And that is a walked batter. So Powers, who had the home run earlier today, is now in a position where she's able to get a second home run here. She will put Minnesota back on top. But she starts out with 2 strikes. And she strikes out. So Molly Reedkiller is going to be starting out this inning, but we'll see how long she's kept in. She is pulled instantly for Camden Zarm here. We've seen him in other games. I don't now recall if he's pitched in both games or if he was just brought in last game. We definitely saw him some last game because you can see his stamina bar came in at about 80%. And he comes in instantly, gets strike for out 1. He is an A- relief pitcher, so he is the kind of player that you want in this situation. You're down 1, top of the 7th. Keep this a 1-run game. That ball is lifted high. It's not going to have the distance. It falls in about the middle of the outfield there. Mendoza, so far yet to get a hit in this series. Swings late on that one. Swings for strike 2. And strike 3. That was a beautiful pitching display. So Minnesota, right now, bottom of the 7th, currently down only 1 run. They will be leading off with their 9th batting order, right fielder, Camille Lamb. We'll start off with 2 strikes. and strike 3. So Enoch Nelson so far has not been playing all that well. In the regular season, as their leadoff, he averaged a .264 batting average. And he strikes out. McCann so far doing exceptionally well, coming in a relatively stressful situation here, knowing that he really does not want to give up any runs to Minnesota, as this is an extremely close game getting into these later innings. Caught just outside. Atkins hits 2 foul balls in a row. And there she gets strike 3. It's going into the top of the 8th. Virginia still has a 1-run lead. And they are going to be having their normal starting batting order here, starting with Norton. A nice grounder. McCarty is able to just reach out for it, though. Gets up it fast and out 1. Another nice grounder. That one does make it into the outfield. Whitney gets it in. And Virginia now with a player on first, with Blevins stepping up. And here we go. They're going to switch pitchers. They're going to go straight to Gardner. Gardner is their A-plus closer. I'll be honest, for a closer, this is a little bit early to see them normally come in, but they know that this is a big moment for them in this tournament. They do not want to go down 3-0 in this series. Shipwright is now stepping up with 2 outs. Three balls, 1 strike. Shipwright gets under that one. Does it have the distance? No. Cano catches it maybe 10 feet from the wall. Minnesota stepping up here. They have their kind of main power hitters up to bat this inning. They're down 1 run. So here we go. Virginia's going to keep McCann in. McCann has pitched very well so far today. Starts things off here with 3 balls, though, and he's going to start off with a walk. And let's see here. They're going to bring in a pinch runner here to maybe get over, but let's see. McCann over to Blevins, and that still results in a double play. Shortstop McCarty here almost gets hit by the first pitch. 2 balls, 1 strike. We go full count. Foul ball. And McCann walks. Was that Atkins there? Let's see, Whitney's now up. McCarty is the one on first. And that gets away. That's going to put McCarty over on second, which that just really made this a lot more interesting. Whitney now with a player in scoring position. McCarty does not have a great speed bar. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Whitney gets under that one. Will it land? It does not have the distance for a home run. Ortiz gets under it in time. And if that had been a couple of feet further, or if it had a slightly lower arc, that would have resulted in a tie game. But here we go. Gardner knows that he needs to not allow Virginia to get another run. And you can see here, as a closer, that stamina is just decimates so quickly. We're looking at pitch 14. Their stamina bar is already halfway down. But he does get out 1. And you have to assume, considering that their other two relief pitchers are C-minuses, unless this inning really stretches out, Gardner's going to close out this inning for them. One ball, two strikes. And there he gets another strikeout. That is lifted. That actually might be out of here. Let's see. It is home run. That is going to put their lead to 2 runs. That was a beautifully hit ball there by Reed. Now Virginia's up 5-3. Ortiz is stepping up. Looking at 2 outs, and that gets past the shortstop McCarty. Whitney gets it in, and Gardner's now in a little bit of a rough situation here. Again, I don't think that it's worth pulling him. They are going to pull him, though, for Ethan Straining, who we have not seen yet in this tournament. Straining is a C-minus pitcher in the regular season. Went 5 wins, 2 losses. Slow grounder. McCarty fields it. And that does end the inning. So Minnesota, going into the bottom of the 9th, they need to score at least 2 runs. They are definitely in a position where they can make that happen. Virginia is going to keep in McCann. Surprises me a little bit because his stamina is already in the red. But I think Virginia now is partially thinking they can get out of this game without needing to pull another pitcher. That would be very big for them going into game 4. Oh, there they go. They are now going to switch him out. Grounder right down the third base line, and it's another one that just slowly rolls into that very nice zone. Minnesota can't run a double off of that, but they're now in a situation, there's only 1 out. Lamb has not batted well so far, but this is potentially 1 swing away from a huge play, and that gets away from the catcher. Minnesota now has a player in scoring position here in the bottom of the 9th. Lamb, despite that decimated contact bar, has been able to get a number of contacts here, but does strike out. Nelson now in a very big moment for Minnesota. Minnesota does not want to fall to 3-0 in this series. Ducked a little bit inside to me, but it was called a strike. Grounder, Blevins ends the game. So Virginia is able to take game 3, and they are now up in this series 3-0. We could be looking at another matchup that is a quick 4-game series. This was a big game for Minnesota, though. So Minnesota snapped out of a couple of their lowered mojos. They were able to have an inning with success scoring, which again is big for them. They're a low-scoring team, but this is definitely one of those games where if Minnesota plans to knock off the number 1 seed Virginia, this is a game that they really wanted to take the W in. In terms of player of the game, let's take a quick look here. Powers did have that really great home run, 3-run home run on 2 hits. Craig also had a home run, 3 RBIs. Only 1 hit, though. So I feel like Powers did have a better game than Craig. There wasn't any pitcher that pitched an insanely long time. There wasn't really a great pitching performance. I would say McCann actually did pretty well, but he also walked 3 batters. I'm honestly not sure who you give this to. I mean, I think Powers in some ways definitely had probably the most impactful game, but Minnesota didn't win. So let's see what the game says. I'm actually not sure who to pick in this case. Okay, so the game does go with Powers, even though Minnesota was not able to get the W here, followed by Craig and then Axe Marshall, who overall had a very solid starting pitching performance. So with that, thanks for joining me for Game 3. We will see what happens next game, as it is a potential elimination game. And I'll see y'all for Game 4.